My name is Dr. Aleha Ingel. You can call me Doc, Aleha, anything in between. It doesn't really matter to me, whatever makes you comfortable. I am a 21-year Air Force veteran and a work culture expert. I retired in 2021, smack dab in the middle of COVID at Maxwell Air Force Base. And you know what they had for us in 2021? Absolutely nothing. You're absolutely right. In 2021, after putting in over 20 years of service, they gave me my TD 214 and kicked me to the curb. And I had no idea what I was doing. So in 2021, I made it my mission to ensure that no other veterans go through the anxieties and the mistakes that I went through. So this lesson is all about don't be a Leah, do better. And I'm going to show you how to do it. So when I left the Air Force in 2021, I thought the hardest part was behind me. I had built hundreds of bombs, led thousands of airmen, managed multi-million dollar operations, and I taught financial management to military members across the globe. But when I sat down to write my own first resume, I froze. I had no idea what I was doing. After over 20 years of being a high level performing executive leader, I had no idea how to write a resume. So, how do you explain 21 years of experience in a way that makes sense to someone outside of the military? Think about it, folks. In healthcare, we can't even agree what's the difference between an EKG and EDG. So, how can we possibly expect recruiters to understand what we mean when we say XO, commander, and mission driven? They're not going to understand that, not unless they've been around us for a long time. So it's on us to translate this. It was the translation in the transition that I had not quite learned yet. And I wasn't alone. Every year, over 200,000 service members transition to civilian life. 200,000 of us. And within the first year, 44% of us will walk away from our first civilian job. And that's not because we can't do the work. We're work hogs. That's what we do. It's because something got lost in translation. We're not speaking the same language usually at that first job. So today we're going to talk about how to translate your excellence, how to turn your military achievements into a language that recruiters and hiring managers understand and value. You see, what the first challenge for me was language. The civilian world doesn't speak in acronyms or duty titles. When they see executed tactical operations or mission ready assessments, they have no idea what that means in business terms. Unless you can translate that to profit and loss, you're going to lose a lot of people along the way. So the second challenge is confidence. We're taught humility in the military to focus on the mission, not ourselves. It is never about us. We need to eat that humble pie because this is about all of us. But in the civilian world, if you don't tell the story in the most selling way, if you don't sell yourself like you're the best car on that lot, nobody else will see it. And finally, clarity. You might have been a logistics officer or a financial management technician, or maybe a logistics technician. In corporate terms, that could mean operations, it could mean supply chain, it could even mean project management. If we can't define what we do, employers cannot do it either. These barriers, language, confidence, and clarity create frustration, not just for us, but for recruiters too, because recruiters know the value in a veteran. They know that we are a high value candidate, but if they can't understand what we're trying to sell them, we're going to lose that friendship. We're going to lose that networking that we've just created. You know you're capable. I know you're capable, but you feel like you're shouting across a translation gap, and we have no idea how to put that bridge in place. That disconnect is what leads to that 44% turnover. Within 12 months of our first job, 44% of us get so frustrated that we just walk away, not from opportunity, but from that misunderstanding that we have no idea how to address. Now I'm going to keep it real, folks. My career path was not linear. I'm about the most non-linear uh, qualified person you can think of. I started in ammunitions where I built bombs, collected bullets, and inspected missiles. Yes, I was a grunt for the first 5 years of my career. Then I went into financial management and I became so good at audit and fraud detection that I became an instructor. And I became almost I think I found where I belonged was instructing technical training. And then I moved on to role-playing missions and executive leadership. And I'm sure that a lot of your experience is very similar in the same way. None of us did one job our entire careers. Most of us had our functional expertise, but then we also had 27 different additional duties. And God forbid they need to pull from our career field to go fill another career field. We are expert multitaskers, folks. And it's all about selling that on paper. Because on paper, that looks like chaos to a civilian. Recruiters didn't know where to place me when I started my transition. Was I a leader, a teacher, a fraud analyst? They couldn't decide. And to be completely honest, I still can't decide sometimes. And that's okay. And that's when I learned to simplify these complex roles. I started using universal terminology, transferable skills that apply to all career fields, like project management and training design and team leadership. I stopped trying to make my career look neat and in a box because it just doesn't fit like that when you're a veteran. And it started showing how to make me valuable. And I want you to remember this. Civilian employers don't hire titles, folks. They hire impact. They don't care what your title was. They want to know what you did when you were in that title. So instead of listing responsibilities, I want you to focus when you start your resume to list results. Ask yourself these questions. What changed because I was there? What improved? Who grew? That's the story they need to hear, not your title, not your acronyms, not your military schools. Take a moment and think, what's one accomplishment you're super proud of that might sound ordinary on paper? How could you reframe it in plain, impactful language without the military jargon, without the acronyms, to sell yourself as the best car on the lot? Remember, there are going to be hundreds of qualified candidates applying for the exact same role. It's on you to sell yourself. What makes you the car to buy amongst all the other cars on the lot? That's your mission when you're drafting that resume. Here's where we make translation practical. Let's look at this table. It's a simple shift in word, folks, but a massive shift of understanding. You could say led 150 airmen. Yeah, sure, that sounds great. Or if you put managed a 150-person cross-functional team, it's cross-functional. Now you're selling that you're a multitasker. You're probably involved with conflict management, project management. You're highlighting more than just your role. You're highlighting what you did in that role. Rather than saying oversaw readiness, you could say ensured compliance and operational excellence. Notice that what's missing. Notice the difference. We're not talking about jargon. We're talking about impact. You're not watering down your experience, you're decoding it. Think of it like switching uniforms. You are the same person. You are the same candidate, the same high performer. You're just wearing a little bit different fabric. And remember that numbers speak every language. The numbers are what's going to stick out more than anything else to these recruiters. Those of us that have written our own evals throughout our career, you remember every time you submitted it and they kicked it back saying, not measurable, not measurable. You need more numbers. Recruiters are no different. They want to know what makes you the most valuable option amongst all of the options. You could say improved efficiency or saved X number of dollars. That's the kind of language they're looking for. So I want you to remember this. Facts tell, but stories sell. Facts tell, but stories sell. In the military, we were trained not to brag. The mission came first. It wasn't about us, it was about everyone. But in the civilian world, your mission is your message. I'm going to tell you a story. I once worked with a veteran named Marcus. His resume said survived security operations for survived. You saw that? I said survived. I meant to say supervised security operations for 300 personnel. So I asked him, that's great. You supervised 300 people. That's a big deal, but tell me this. What changed because you supervised those 300 personnel? What story can you tell about that particular bullet? And he told me that during his tenure, he had managed to reorganize shift schedules, he introduced new communication drills, and he had reduced incident response time. And because of that, that story, I told him, showed leadership, empathy, and teaching skills, things that every employer is looking for. So, yeah, you supervised 300 people, but you also led, showed empathy, and taught new skills. You mentored these members. So instead, we rewrote it to say developed and mentored a 300-person security team, improving emergency readiness metrics by 40% and streamlining response protocols. You notice the difference? We've got a little bit of some role information versus impact. We are telling that recruiter what we can do, how we can do it, and why we're the best person to do it in that role. Same job, entirely new impact. And when you share your story with heart and data, people don't just see your resume, they see your value. They start to see why you're the car on the lot that they should buy. Your resume is one piece of the puzzle, but you also have to build your brand with intent. And yes, you absolutely have a brand, even if you don't have a business. Everyone has a brand. So let's think about this for a minute. Everyone has a friend that is notoriously late to everything. Like it or not, that is their brand. When I retired in 2021, I knew that I wanted to be known as a work culture expert. So, in order to build that brand, I went back to school and started learning more about employee engagement and work and org development. I started conducting podcasts where I was a guest on a podcast probably once every quarter, talking about work culture and how to create psychologically safe environments because I wanted that to be my brand. And now today, when I engage with individuals and interact, I'm quite recognized now because I am the work culture girl. What do you want your brand to be? Everybody has a brand. Everybody has a brand. Think about cars. Toyota, what is Toyota known for? They last forever. They don't have the best tech, but they last forever, right? Ford has a brand. Cadillac has a brand. They're all known for something. What do you want to be known as? Your LinkedIn is your digital handshake, and LinkedIn is where you can build that brand. It introduces you before you even walk into a room. If you leverage and optimize LinkedIn, you can gain access to over 92% of recruiters because that's how many of them use LinkedIn. You are going to miss out on 92% of the recruiters out there if you are not using LinkedIn. So learning how to leverage your LinkedIn and building your brand on LinkedIn is going to help you stand out amongst all the other cars on the lot. Profiles with a professional photo get 21% more views. Just a good headshot. And the headshot doesn't have to be anything expensive. You can create a headshot with AI nowadays. As long as your headshot is about 50 to 60% of your head, you don't want anyone else in the picture because this is about you. You're selling you. Try not to have your uniform in picture because you're trying to sell your civilian self now. We're no longer selling the military version of ourselves. We are selling the veteran side. Okay. And then finally, there is a skills section on your LinkedIn. If you add at least 5 skills to your LinkedIn, you are 33% more likely to be found by a recruiter. Just 5 skills, and you will be found by 33% more recruiters. It takes 30 seconds to gain that much more access. It's all about making yourself stand out. And that clear headline, there's a headline right below your picture. This is the same headline that's on your resume. It can say something like operations leader, process improvement, team builder. What describes you? What terminology do you want to be your brand? And you're going to be the only one that will be able to answer that question. Okay. What do you want your brand to be? Your headline should tell people what you do or what you want to do, but not necessarily what you did. Unless you're trying to go back to an old role, as long as you're still trying to progress and grow, your headline needs to be what you want to do, not where you used to be, because we are growing and learning and becoming better versions of ourselves. And your about section. That's your story zone. Call this your elevator pitch, if you will. You know, when you enter an interview and the very first question they ask you is tell me about yourself, and you already have that professional introduction ready. 30 to 60 seconds. Who are you and what makes you so special? Boom. That professional introduction, that elevator pitch that you've practiced over and over and over again, just pop that into your story. Everything on your LinkedIn page is searchable by recruiters. So leveraging the keywords in your headline and in your story, not your story, your about section will give you access to those recruiters that are searching for those specific keywords. So leveraging your LinkedIn is going to give you the most access to the recruiters on LinkedIn. Now, that being said, getting you access to the recruiter is only half the battle. Folks, if you get invited to the interview, the recruiter already knows that you're qualified. They are not trying to confirm that you are qualified in their interview. They are trying to confirm that they like you. They know you're qualified. Everyone invited to the interview is qualified. They're not trying to find out if you can do the job. They're trying to find out how you will do the job. What is your work ethic? Would you fit on the team? Is your personality the type of personality that would slide right onto this team well? Would you fit the culture? Those are the things that they're looking for in the interview. Okay. Let's talk about these interviews and your salary negotiations because these are two places where most veterans lose a lot of ground when it comes to the job search. In your interviews, the secret sauce is using the STAR method. Situation, task, action, result. Every single question you are asked in an interview, you need to respond in a situation, task, action, result format. And this is for 2 reasons. One, a lot of times your interviews are now being scanned by AI, and AI is searching for the STAR method. They're looking for that STAR format. Okay. But also, 2, recruiters just simply prefer this. The STAR method is what allows them to acquire the most information, the most valuable information that they need as quick as possible. It makes it so that they don't have to search to find out who you are as a person and as a candidate and as an employee. So providing that STAR, that situation, task, action, result format in your answer is going to give you the most valuable leverage amongst all of the other candidates in the interview process. So here's an example. When our base lost power during a training exercise situation, I coordinate backup operations, that's your task, led a 10-person team to restore systems, the action, and we were operational again in under 45 minutes. Results. You notice there are numbers wherever we can place them because recruiters and AI love measurable numbers. That's a leadership story wrapped in 4 sentences. You answered the question, you did it in 4 sentences. It's not a long, drawn out response, and it gives the recruiter exactly what they're looking for without burning a lot of time. Now, salary negotiations, this one hit me personally because when the recruiters bring it up, Aaliyah made the mistake for a long time. The number one rule when you are asked, what are your salary expectations? You are never, ever, under any circumstances going to say the number first. You are going to say, I would like my fair market value. If they ask again, you have to stand strong because they probably will ask again. You will not say the number first. Well, can you give me the range? Do you have the budget? You can ask questions to get them to drop the number first, but if you drop the number first, you can really hurt yourself in the negotiations. And here's why. Unless the salary is given to you up front in the job interview, and it's not very common, but it does happen. Unless that happens, 100% of the time, your offer is going to be a lowball. The first offer is going to be a lowball 100% of the time because they want you, but they want you as cheap as they can get you. So ultimately, if you are not negotiating, you are going to leave over $1 million on the table throughout your lifetime if you don't negotiate. Negotiations are incredibly important and you have to stand tall. In my first civilian role, I did not know this. I did not negotiate. I thought asking would have made me seem ungrateful. Later, I learned that I had actually started 15% lower than what they had intended on starting me at because I didn't realize they were expecting me to negotiate. That's the cost of silence. And you can say, I'd like my fair market value. Can you share the budget? Can you share the range? But ultimately, every once in a while, you might be pushed to say the number first. And it's if you have to, if you absolutely have to, prepare yourself. You can determine what your fair market value is at salary.com. Salary.com is going to give you the most effective and up-to-date numbers based on the 2 most important things that impact your salary, and that is your KSAs, your knowledge, skills, and abilities, the qualifications that are written on your resume, combined with your cost of living. Where do you live? So $80,000 in San Antonio is going to be a lot different from $80,000 in DC, would it not? 80,000 in DC, you're going to be sleeping in your car. Let's just be honest, right? So, understanding what you're walking into, standing strong and try to advocate for yourself as much as you can because nobody else is going to do it. And finally, I do want to cover a few tips for that applicant tracking system. Once you are going through the ATS, that applicant tracking system, the ATS is an AI system that is going to scan your resume. And there are several things in your resume, if you aren't careful, that can trip up the ATS and your resume will never make it to the recruiter. And I cannot foot stomp this enough, folks. You can be the most qualified person for the job, but if you do not know how to work with the ATS, the recruiter is never going to see your resume. It's never going to happen. So here are a few tips. Remove all lines. And what I mean by lines is don't underline any of your fonts. Don't use any lines as page breaks or section separators. Don't use lines in your hyperlinks because you're not going to have hyperlinks. Also remove your hyperlinks. Hyperlinks tend to trip up the ATS as well. So your emails, your LinkedIn, URL, all of those things. No hyperlinks and no lines, okay? You're going to want to remove everything from your headers and your footers. I know a lot of people had some savvy tricks to get past the ATS when it first started becoming a regular thing in the hiring process. But please, please, please hear me. Do not try to use the tricks. The ATSs out there that are regularly used by competing organizations and companies, they are very well aware of these tricks. And if you use these tricks, a lot of times you will automatically end up rejected just because they don't want to deal with a candidate that didn't do it the right way. So try not to put anything at all in your headers or footers. It can be an automatic dismissal with some of these ATSs. Never allow more than 2 lines of spacing. So hit that space, space, and never do more than 2 lines. When I see 3 lines of spaces or more, what I have seen is that the ATS thinks that's the end of the page and it stops reading. So do not do anything more than 2 lines of spacing. Avoid significantly varying font sizes, types, and colors. Of course, you can use some shifting sizes and a couple different types, but don't use a whole lot of different colors. That upsets the ATS, and the font size and types can confuse them as well. If you use significantly varying different sizes and font types, I have seen the ATS completely read over that section and could not pick it up at all because it wasn't the same font as the rest of the document. Tables, columns, and text boxes are a hard pass. They confuse the ATS. Along with images, graphics, logos, those just don't make the applicant tracking systems very happy at all. Microsoft Word is by far the preferred format for ATS. Every once in a blue moon, you will see the job description request a PDF. If it's requesting a PDF, there's a good chance that those resumes are not being scanned by ATS. No guarantee. But there's a good chance that those are all being manually read by a recruiter. And then finally, use plain round bullets only. Try to avoid using any fun graphics for your bullets because the ATS doesn't like it. And believe me, I understand. If I would put glitter and sequins on my resume if I could, but that's just not where we are in the ATS right now. So let's look out or zoom out and let's look at this at the big picture. Hiring veterans isn't just patriotic, folks. It is profitable. According to SHRM, companies with veteran hiring programs see 68% higher retention rates when that translation in transition is successful. That's huge. Veterans bring leadership under significant pressure. We bring discipline and resilience. We bring problem-solving instincts because we were told for an X number of years, don't ever bring a problem to me without a solution. So let me tell you, we are expert problem solvers. In other words, veterans don't just fill roles, they build high-performing, loyal, adaptable teams. So when you translate your story clearly, you're not just helping yourself, you're helping employers see the talent that they've been missing. You're helping them understand why you are the car on the lot to buy amongst all the others. This is where we all bring it together, folks. You have the tools, the translation, the storytelling, the branding, the interviewing. Now's the application. The goal isn't to fit it in, it's to stand out authentically, strategically, and confidently. If there's one takeaway today, let it be this. Your service gave you skills that can't be taught in any classroom, adaptability, courage, and heart and leadership. Those are universal currencies in the workplace. So write your story, share your story, and let the world see the leader behind the label. Your uniform may change, but your mission doesn't. You've served your country, and now it's time to serve your own potential. Translate your story and tell it with confidence in that star format that I know you're confident and capable of doing. And remember, keep leading with authenticity, accountability, and empathy because the future of work depends on it. And I thank you.
Dr. Aleha, thank you so much. This was very impactful, and I had a lot of takeaways from this as well in terms of what to do differently with your LinkedIn as well as with your resumes and amazing information here. This would also be available to people afterwards on the YouTube channel. So we are going to share some links with everyone who could not have attended this session. Um, I did I did have a question.
Yes.
Um, so what is the biggest myth that you've seen veterans believe about civilian job searching that holds them back?
Most veterans think they can skip the targeting of their resume. They think that if they draft a master resume with the most impactful keywords, that they will never have to target their resume. And that's unfortunately just not true because the experience that we bring to the table will never fit on more than on 2 pages or less. It just won't. So you're really kind of shorting yourself out if you're not targeting your resumes.
That's I think that's super powerful. And I know sometimes when you start leveraging AI for resume targeting, it makes up stuff. It just it isn't right, and I feel like it definitely needs the right time and effort to really customize your resume for each job.
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Thank you so much for your time. I had a lot of takeaways. I'm sure the audience did as well. And thank you so much for your service as well.
Oh, thank you so much. And I hope to connect with everyone.
Yes.